When I left Stanford in the late 80s, I went straight out the door to Washington, D.C. with the sole intent of wanting to make a difference in the world. Little did I know that something interesting would pop up along the way, and just as I was getting disenfranchised with the pace of D.C. and the actual ambition up there, my family decided to buy the Dallas Cowboys. And I got drafted to come back to Dallas and work in the family business. Little did I know that football would be the avenue, the platform, and the stage that would give me the opportunity to make a significant impact in our community. In the early 90s, the Cowboys were enjoying an inordinate amount of success. We'd been to 3 out of 4 Super Bowls, and everything was just great. And then one of our players made a very unfortunate decision off the field, and overnight it all changed. The headlines were completely different. And my father looked at me and he said, if people are going to be as interested in what we do off the field as they are what we do on the field, then we need to take advantage of that visibility and do something significant with it. We need to find a partner in an organization that is truly making an impact. And we need to stand shoulder to shoulder with them so that when they talk about us, that maybe they'll talk about them. We need to be the Jerry Lewis of something. He said, now, it can't just be any organization. It has to be an organization that has a brand that's as strong, if not stronger, than our own, that is nationally, if not internationally recognized. But most importantly, it has to be an organization that's built on integrity. Because if we're going to bring this huge media spotlight to their attention, they better be able to withstand it. And so, a few weeks later, I found myself out searching for the perfect organization when I got a call from a gentleman by the name of Steve Reineman, who was the president of Frito-Lay at the time. He had no interest in sports marketing. He had no tickets. He had no sign. He had none of that. But he said, I want to meet with you. And when I got to his office, he asked me 3 questions. He said, do you know what's the largest service organization in the world? And I said, no. And he just said, do you know what organization helps more children than any other in the world? And I said, no. And he said, do you know what the Salvation Army is? And I said, it's an organization where you take your old clothes? Well, that was not exactly the answer he was after, but he was the national chairman of the Salvation Army at that time. And he said the Salvation Army's greatest asset, their humility, is also their greatest challenge. We need somebody to blow the horn for them. We need somebody to give them recognition and tell everybody about their great works. So in his office that day, I realized that we had a game every year on Thanksgiving. And if we could take advantage of the giving spirit of the holiday and launch a national Red Kettle campaign. It was the same time all the Red Kettles went out across the country. It's the oldest fundraiser in all of our country, 125 years old. And if we could build a national launch surrounded by that and innovate and promote around it, that maybe we could use our game as that platform for people to talk about it and for people to see it. Well, I left that office and I went straight back to my dad's office. Of course, I called my boss in the middle and he goes, oh my gosh, how'd you get into Steve Reinemann's office? And I said, well, I don't know, but he goes, did you sell him any tickets? And I said, no, sir, I didn't. He goes, did you sell him a suite? And I said, no, sir, I didn't. He goes, well, what did you do? And I said, I gave him our halftime. And oh, he was so mad. And I just ran right by him and I kept running to my dad's office and I said, I found the organization and now I need a meeting with the president of NBC Sports. And he kind of chuckled and he goes, okay, yeah, right. I'll get you that meeting in New York with the president of NBC Sports. And sure enough, a few months later, with a recording by Reba McEntire by my side, my father and I walked into the office of Dick Ebersol. Now, the night before, I was like trying to get ready and all my stuff was all over the ground. And my dad kind of looked at me and was like, what are you doing? So I'm getting ready for our big meeting. And he said, you know, why don't you let me handle that for you? So I said, okay. So we walked into Dick Ebersol's office. We shook hands, exchanged pleasantries and all of that. And then he looked right at us and he said, now, why are you here? And my dad took one look at him and one look at me and he said, Charlotte has something he'd like to ask you. And so off I went, started talking about the Salvation Army and all the great things that they did. And I said, you know, we only have one other game on television on Thanksgiving. You've got time, I know you do. Why don't you talk about the Salvation Army and what we're going to do? And he looked at me and he said, no one's ever walked into my office and asked me for airtime for free before. I said, well, I am. And he said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll air your halftime on 2 conditions. One, you get an extension by the NFL, which had never been done before, except for Super Bowl. And he said, and two, you produce a show that's worthy of network television, and I'll air it. But if it's not, I'll cut away to commercial. I said, yes, sir. I shook his hand, and we walked out the door. And as soon as the door shut, my dad grabbed my arm, and he goes, do you know what you just did? And I said, yes, I got my first nationally televised halftime show. And he said, no, you just got $10 million worth of exposure for the Salvation Army. And then he looked at me really seriously, and he said, do you know what you're doing? And I said, no, but I will by Thanksgiving. And now, 20 years later, that partnership, that launch, that kickoff has raised the Salvation Army over $2.3 billion. And that has not only become, the Salvation Army has not only become a platform for us and a reason and a way to make a significant impact, but it's become an ethos for our family and also for our organization. Even our players, you may have seen later, last December when one of our players, Zeke Elliott, ran for a touchdown. He kept running and he jumped into a big kettle that was in the end zone. Well, within a matter of 24 hours, with the help of a little social media, we raised an additional $325,000 in 24 hours through just a simple action of jumping in a kettle. You know, perhaps the greatest responsibility we have with the Dallas Cowboys is what we can do to help those in need. We know that people don't stand in line and buy tickets to see grace and mercy at work, and they don't fill the stands and cheer for acts of compassion, because compassion is not a spectator sport. Everyone has to play. Our head coach, Jason Garrett, was talking about the importance of integrity and character, and he told our team that the purpose of life is to live a purposeful life. I believe that the Salvation Army personifies that statement. It is their mission to feed empty stomachs and hungry souls. It is our responsibility to magnify that mission. You know, we know our goal at the Dallas Cowboys is to win Super Bowls. You may not actually realize that, but we do know that that's our goal, is to win Super Bowls. But our purpose is to run with the ball for those who can't run with the ball themselves. Thank you.